What's up guys, Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I'm back with another D&D spell card review. So if you're familiar with this channel, this may actually be how you found the channel in the first place, as a lot of people latched onto these. The folks at Gale Force Nine, which if you didn't know, well, let me put that out there now. These cards, if you've seen these or something similar to these, the spell cards, maybe in this incarnation or an older version, you know, the ones that kind of look like this, as opposed to looking like this, and so on. They're not produced by Wizards of the Coast. They're produced by a company called Gale Force Nine. Gale Force Nine does a lot of work for Wizards of the Coast. They produce all of the campaign-specific DM screens. They produce all of these cards that we're going to talk about. They produce the higher-end minis. I have some myself. You may have seen like the Zombie T-Rex mini, the kind of larger, more advanced one that you glue together and then you paint yourself. It's kind of like a little model kit. They're also in charge of doing the publication for all of the localized versions of the various D&D 5th edition books. So basically, Wizards only handles the publishing for the English version. So for the Spanish and French and all the other versions of the books that are either being produced or are currently in production and being released, Gale Force 9 handles that. But that being said, I just want to put that out there in case you have an issue with some of this stuff. Don't go complaining or requesting assistance from Wizards of the Coast. You're not going to get it. You got to go to Gale Force 9. And there'll be links in the description to Gale Force 9's various social medias and their website and things of that nature. So, that being said, we're going to talk about version 3 of the spell cards. For some of you, you may not even know that there were 2 other versions, and I guess 2.5 other versions of these cards before the ones that you've seen. So let's go ahead and jump into our little close-up cam here. So you can see, also, big thanks to Pete and at Gale Force 9 for sending this. He sent me a box with every version 2 spell card. So you can see we've got Cleric here, we've got Bard, we've got Druid, we've got Arcane, so this is Sorcerer, Wizard, Warlock all in one box. We have Paladin, Ranger, we have martial powers and races, we'll go into that in a second, and we have the Xanathar's Guide to Everything spells. He also sent me some other things, but those will be done in other reviews. So, how do you know which version you have? Very simple. If you take a look on the bottom of the box, we can get that to focus in. Alright, let's actually put the autofocus on the camera then, how about that? See how it says version 3 right there? That's how you tell. So previous versions, I happen to have, what do I have here? This one doesn't even say. How about this one? Nope. Nope. Alright. We'll get to that. So anyway, version 3. That's how you tell. That's the most recent up-to-date version of these cards. So, first of all, what are spell cards? I don't really think I need to go into that for people. I feel like you guys know. But basically, they look like this. Right? They're a higher-end cardstock with sort of a laminate finish. They list the spell at the top. Right here in the smaller print, it says what type of level spell, 4th level conjuration, casting time, range, and so on, and then the text. And now, thankfully, with some of these newer ones, with the Xanathar's ones, see, it says see page 156, so it tells you what page to go to for the spells. Now these, on the back, have the eye symbol of the Xanathar, so they're not going to tell you, and I guess Silgar here, there's a little fish, they're not going to tell you right off the bat who the spell is for, so that's why they have down here the little symbols. Now, unfortunately, if you don't know what that symbol means, that does nothing to help you. So, for instance, that's the Paladin symbol. I know because this is a Paladin spell, but also in the player's handbook and on the top of these Paladin cards, it has that symbol. So if we go to this next one, right? So this is Guardian of Nature, and this has the sickle. Get that to focus in, and these crossed swords. So the sickle is Druid, the crossed swords in the paw is Ranger. You get the point. But again, at the bottom, actually, this one doesn't say see this page in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So I guess it actually, see, that would have been a nice thing to have. It only tells you to see the page if there's more information than what's contained on the card. But that being said, that is still an improvement over previous cards, and we'll have to look and do a little comparison to see, because I believe it used to just say see the page in the book for more information, but we can check that on some older versions. Also, it has right here, we can get that in focus, this big C. You see that right there in the diamond? That indicates concentration. This was a supreme improvement over the original cards, which used to just say up to 10 minutes. And then if it said up to 10 minutes, that was your guarantee, basically, that it was concentration. They added the nice C there in the newer versions, for I think version 2 and on, to indicate concentration. My only other complaint is, I don't think you'll see it in any of these cards, is if it is a ritual spell, it is only denoted, we'll see if we can't find one, but a ritual spell, it denotes right up here where it says 7th level. This focuses in here. Come on. See where it says 7th level evocation? In parentheses next to that, it would say ritual, if it was a ritual spell. I personally would like to see ritual called out in a similar fashion to the way concentration is, but that's the way it is. Also, something simple for you guys who know the old cards, these have rounded edges, as you can see here. The original cards, which unfortunately I don't have any right near me, had sharp edges. They came to a square point. I don't know what I guess they were a little pokey, so having the rounded edges on the cards is a little nicer. It's a nice feature. I guess maybe a pointed edge is also a pressure point to bend the card, so the rounded edges are nice. But for the most part, physically, these cards are exactly the same as the older versions of the cards. So I don't need to talk much about that. And again, the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, the book reprinted all of the elemental evil cards. So if you had these guys here, the Spellbook Cards Elemental from back in the day, if you buy the Xanathar's cards, this is no longer necessary. Also, a lot of the spells in the Elemental Evil Player's Companion were reprinted and updated to include increased damage or increased usability for all of those spells. So if you have these cards and this is what you're using, I would recommend picking up the Xanathar's cards, or at least writing over and denoting that on these cards themselves with like a Sharpie marker, because like I know Abby Dalzim's Horrid Wilting, it's an 8th level spell. Here in the Elemental Evil Player's cards, it did 10d8 damage, and in the Xanathar's cards, with the update, it does 12d8. Again, just the little things like that, so keep that in mind if you have these cards. So, no longer necessary with Xanathar's because it includes all of the reprints. It also includes all of the new cards. Something else to consider. In all of these decks that you pick up, any of these ones, it only comes with one copy of the cards. So if you're looking, if you have multiple friends who are both playing druids, and you have one of these decks, you guys will be sharing cards. You only have one copy per box, so you may need to pick up another copy. Let's take a look into some other factors. What else have they done to update for version 3? Well, one, the tuck boxes that hold these cards in are leaps and bounds better than the version 1 and version 2 cards. So, let me show you my Druid tuck box. Okay? Here you go. It's not really a box anymore. This is a version 2 set of Druid cards. I only picked these up after the fact. All my other cards are version 1. This is a version 2, and we can see on the bottom here, version 2, if that zooms in. Version 2. So the reason I picked up these cards as a version 2, which look like this, as compared to this, so Druid version 3, version 2. I picked up version 2. All of my other cards, like I said, are version 1. That's because I didn't have any druids at my table, and I'm the kind of guy who buys dice and all of these kind of amenities for my players, as well as for myself when I'm playing, because I want everybody to have the best experience, and these are a quick reference guide, so it helps. I also sometimes play with a lot of newer players, so having these when they need to go ahead and take a look at their spells, this makes it easier. But if you look, like, here's the adhesive, it's non-existent, like, this is now a clamshell, and it doesn't hold shut, and the cards go everywhere. These were evenly spaced, in case you're wondering, like, why are they all on one side? That's why it's broke. No, there was even a strip in the middle here. These were all evenly spaced, but in the process of shifting and coming apart, that's what happens. Again, The cards are the same, and they are color-coded for each class with the class symbols on the back, except for things like the Xanathar's cards. So, big update there. Now, let's take a look in a couple of these to show you guys some updates, and there's actually some things that I'm curious about myself. So we're going to head and open up these Druid cards, because this will be an interesting test. So you see the cards come like this in the tuck box, sealed in plastic. So, now, that answers my question. Druids get a spell called Control Flames. It was added in the Elemental Evil Player's Companion. You can even see it right here. Control Flames. And you can see right down here that it's usable by Druids. So, even in the version 3 cards, they did not include any of the older spells that were released in Elemental Evil that were part of the Druid's capabilities. So, if you want to have access to the full Druid spell list, you need to buy the Druid cards here. And then you would also need to go buy the Xanathar's cards to get all of your Druid spells. So keep that in mind if you are going to play Druid or another class that got an expanded spell list from Xanathar's Guide or Elemental Evil. So we're going to go ahead and take off the plastic here, off of these cards. Comes off nice and easy, but there's a couple things I wanted to show you guys in case you are unaware. So we've got here's our cantrips, right, for our Druid. Okay, actually I don't think Druid has one, so this was a poor choice. Alright, so there you go, you can see the cards. So that's actually not, I meant to do this with Cleric, but we'll do it with Bard because they have the most, and a lot of people see these cards and they're a little confused by them. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we sealed up our Druid cards. We can go ahead and put away our Xanathar's cards as well, because we're not going to need those for this demonstration. I am curious, though, if the tuck boxes in these editions, the version 3, are just as bad. I haven't used these nearly as much, so if you guys have them, please let me know in the comments below if the tuck box adhesive has increased at all, or if it's still crap, like the old versions. So here you can see the bards are sort of a magenta, and they have the bard loot symbol on the back here. But see these, how these don't have a number? On the back it tells you what level spell it is. These don't. So that's the one that I wanted to look at because I wanted to show you guys, because certain classes have access to this, and you may be curious about what you're looking at. Go ahead and open up these Bard cards, and we're going to go to the end. Here you go. Now, looks like they did increase these, so that's they did adjust that. So if you look, these are blank cards. They say Bard, they have no level, and if you look real close, right there, Magical Secrets. This is if you are, when you level up as a Bard, you can choose to get at certain levels spells of any class type. This is the theoretical purpose of these, is that you write in what those spells are. So you get those at 3 if you are a lore bard, 10, I think, like you get 2 each time. So 2 at 3 if you're a lore bard, and I think you get 2 more at 10, and then like in the teens, and then like 17. So that covers all of the magical secrets, including if you were a lore bard. So that's what those blank cards are. You'll see them in some other things. For instance, if you are a warlock, you'll see blank cards in there as a warlock. I'm curious now, because they used to just be blank cards, and I don't think they actually said what they were. Like, that denotes magical secrets. I don't have any of the older cards here, so it used to just be blank, a blank card. That one actually says magical secrets. Let's see if they changed it for the warlock here. Ah, see? So this doesn't say, it just says warlock. Now you'd think that it would denote a little bit for you. So the reason that these ones are here is if you are a pact of the Tome Warlock, you get to choose cantrips. And you also get to choose, then if you go with the one invocation, you get to choose ritual spells. So let's see how many blanks we get for the Warlock. We get just 3. So these would be for the 3 cantrips you would choose when you take the Pact of the Tome. It does not include spells for the rituals if you are a and I don't believe so. We'll take a look here. However, it does include, I should point out, that these decks do include the cards that were in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide cards. So this has Booming Blade. This will have, we can get to a Green Flame Blade. It will have, was it Sword Burst, I think it's called? Sword Burst, right? So the 2 or 3 cantrips that were in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide are now included in this. That used to not be the case. You used to have to buy these Arcane Archetype cards, and included in this pack was these spell cards for the various cantrips. So that has been rectified. We're gonna talk about these as well. So let's just take a quick look through these. Here we go. Tensor's Floating Disc is an example of what I wanted to show you. So if you take a look right there, once that focuses in, if that focuses in, come on. Hello, let's do it. Really? Come on. See, it says ritual there? There you go. That's what I mean when it's a ritual spell. It just has that little denotion underneath it next to the first level or second level, whatever type of spell it is. So this does not... Oh, it does. Okay, so we do have some other blank cards. There's the first 3 for the Pact of the Tome. Then we have 1, 2 more. And these are listed as first level Warlock spells. So that I was wrong. So these 2, because it says Arcane Warlock on the bottom. So, did these say 0 on the back? Yes, they do. Okay, so these are your 3 cantrips if you choose Pact of the Tome at level 3. These 2 first level blank cards are when you choose 2 rituals if you choose the Invocation Book of Shadows that lets you get any ritual spell. They gave you your first 2 ritual spells here with these cards. So that answers that. Now the real question is, do they give you the archetypes? I don't believe so, having done a quick look at these. So what I say when I say archetype is, if you were, say, a Pact of the Fiend Warlock, that would give you access to certain spells to expand your spell list. And I don't believe... Oh, it does! Look at that! Okay, so they did include those. So this is good news. So basically, if you had these cards, these guys, this is now an obsolete thing for you if you buy the new set of Arcane cards. So see how it says Arcane on the bottom? That means it applies to all 3. Now let's keep going and see if this changes at all. So Burning Hands... Nope, okay, so it's just going to have all 3 no matter what. So cancel that, because these have it too? Yeah, it does, alright. So this is all of the Arcane cards, but if you take a look right here at Bane, it says Arcane Warlock. And what it means by that is any of these that say, if you know how to play a Warlock in 5th edition, you know you get an expanded spell list. Additional options based on your patron that let you choose other spells for Fiend and so on. So right here is Arcane Warlock, so this spell is one that you get for being a Pact of Something Warlock. So if we go through here, you'll see Command, another one, and then right here we can get Dissonant Whispers. So this one I know is the Great Old One Warlock, and that's why it says it here. Now, I don't know if they continued this beyond the initial ones that you used to get, which was the Pact of the first 3. I don't know if it goes beyond that to, say, include things in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, like the Undying Warlock, or any of the new Warlocks contained within the Xanathar's Guidebook. I highly doubt it. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. You know what? I think there's either a shield spell... Well, the other part of it is, if one of those spells was an arcane card already, it is not included in this deck. So if, let's say, you were a Hexblade Warlock and you got shield, right? It's not going to say Arcane Warlock, it's just going to say Arcane because sorcerers and wizards also have access to that spell. So the only spells that are added in with that Warlock denotion here on the bottom are ones that were not an arcane spell. So for instance, Fairy Fire is not a spell that arcane casters typically have access to. Now they do. Yeah, I don't have any other. Command is another one that's usually a divine spell. That's why it's in here with these cards, because it's not something that a warlock has access to. So we can go ahead and put our arcane cards away now that we've kind of answered that. So the elemental evil cards are, and actually you can see once you take them out that you actually do have some space in here, so your cards aren't going to be smushed right up against each other. So basically the elemental cards, the spell cards elemental, although I am noticing that these are starting to be hard to push in. You have to put them in exactly at the same time, or the corners here will bend on your card box. So that's kind of a little bit of a downside here. Gotta go in exactly the same time. So these cards, D&D elemental, and these cards, arcane archetypes, are no longer required, as they are all bundled into either the Xanathar's cards or the base arcane cards. So there was also some issues, if you are unfamiliar, with previous cards that have since been rectified, and I also realized that I forgot to put these in the arcane cards, so you don't have as much room as I thought. That's actually pretty close now that I put those back in. So there was issues, like for instance, the arcane spell Mislead, for instance, was just completely missing from the Generation 1 arcane spell cards, just not existent. As for the paladins, there's a spell they get called Destructive Wave, which is one of the coolest high-level paladin abilities, or spells, that they get, and it was just flat out missing from the paladin deck. So they have since rectified those and put them in with the cards. So let's take a look here at the paladin cards. Now you'll see that they also have their archetype spells. Paladins get oath spells, which are similar to domain spells for cleric. So Bane is not normally a paladin spell, but it's a vengeance paladin spell. So it's contained within here. And we can go through and see we have all of the paladin spells, but what I want to see, okay, so here it says Paladin Vengeance, Paladin Ancients, Paladin Vengeance. Here we go, here's Paladin Devotion. Now, part of my issue is it does not include Oath of the Crown Paladins. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Oath of the Crown. See here's Ancients and Vengeance for Misty Step. I don't really like Oath of the Crown that much as a oath. That's the one contained in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. But this furthers my issue with that book, is that people just sort of disregard that it exists. Other than, like, they did put the various cantrips in here. But that is a legitimate published paladin oath. It's been out for forever at this point. But look, those cards, there's no Oath of the Crown cards in here. Let's take a look, though. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong, so discount that. I guess all of the first and second level paladin spells that are Oath of the Crown are already on the paladin spell list. Again, if the spell, like say Bless for a devotion paladin, is already on the paladin spell list, they don't include a separate card denoting that it's on there. Similar to the arcane cards, they only put ones in here denoting what the oath spell is, if it's one that's not typically on the paladin list. And here's our perfect example. Spirit Guardians is a cleric spell, but if you look down there, Paladin Crown. So it does have all these up, Guardian of Faith, Devotion, and Crown. So excuse my quick snap judgment, I was incorrect. So they do have, and we can just check, there's Tree Strime, and let's just make sure, Destructive Wave. So Paladin cards, so these contain all of the archetypes for everything up to Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So we're gonna go ahead and skip over Cleric, because that should include the Arcana Cleric cards as well. So you should have some blank cards for your Wizard cantrips. You'll also have blank cards for the Druid-based cantrip as well. So we're not going to open those. We're not going to bother with Ranger or Bard or Druid anymore, because we've kind of already looked through these and we kind of know what's going on. And we confirmed that with the Paladin that it's up to date through Sword Coast Adventures Guide. Again, there's not everything here, and perhaps if we continue to go through the arcane cards, we would have seen cards for the Undying Warlock in here as well, if there were indeed cards that were not on the arcane list already. And the last card deck we have to go over here is the Martial Powers and Races cards. So what these are is probably just up to date through Xanathar's guide, or sorry, to Volo's Guide to Monsters. But what these are certain races provide you with certain benefits, spells, and the like. So we'll take a look and see what we have, because it denotes it on the bottom. And see if these have been updated, because previously it looked like this. Martial Powers and Races. So this is the version 2, and if we take a look just at the side, you can see that there's different colors. So we have right here is Light is an Azamar spell. We have Levitate for your Air Genasi. We have Beasts. Oh, see, look, Beast Sense, Speak with Animals, and Commune with Nature for your Totem Barbarians. We have Dancing Lights and Fairy Fire for and Darkness for the Drow. We have Detect Magic for the Furbolg. Disguise Self for the Furbolg. It does actually include the you can seem 1 foot shorter or taller, which is a function just of Furbolgs, so they did include that. Produce Flame for your Fire Genasi. Burning Hands for your Fire Genasi. And here's your blank... Oh, there's one more. Minor Illusion for your Forest Gnome. Here's a blank card for your High Elf Wizard Cantrip. And then they have these, which are for your Battle Master Fighter. So if you're a fighter out there and you want your cards at quick glance, here you go. Commander Strike, Maneuvering Attack, and so on. Parry, Riposte. Here they all are. So this is all your cards for your fighter. I'll go ahead and actually add those to the back here. If you are a Shadow Monk, you know you have access to certain spells, like Minor Illusion. Well, here it is, Shadow. If you're a Way of the Four Elements Monk, you have certain spells you can cast. Burning Hands. It doesn't denote whether or not how many key points it requires to use those. That would have been a nice little feature, since it is specifically designed for a monk. We'll put a little box or a little denotion at the top that says 2 key points to cast. Open Hand monks can cast Sanctuary. Here's that listed here. 4 elements, Darkness, Dark Vision. Here we go. These are all your 4 elements spells. Mixed in with your Shadow Monk spells here, like, say, Silence. So we'll keep going through, and that is all of your monk spells. And at 9th level, you have the ability to cast Astral Projection. Or not, I'm sorry, not at 9th level, but towards the end of your monk career, you can cast Astral Projection, so they included that spell. Then we have Tiefling. So we have Thaumaturgy, Hellish Rebuke, and Darkness. Your 3 base Tiefling spells. Then we have Fog Cloud and Gust of Wind for all you and Wall of Water for all you Tritons out there. We have Shape Water and Create or Destroy Water for the Water Genasi. And then Animal Friendship and Suggestion for the Yuan-Ti. Also, very cool image for the Yuan-Ti. It also does say here that it specifically states for the Animal Friendship, I don't know if you can read that it is for a snake, which is a Yuan-Ti specific thing. So there you go. So there you have it, guys. That's basically all of the spell cards that exist thus far. And actually, look at that. I just opened this box for the first time, and the tuck box is falling apart. So scratch what I said about them increasing the quality. This box literally just came to me from Gale Force 9 in the mail. I took these cards out, and before I could even put them back in the box, you saw me rip the plastic off. This is basically nothing now. This is already broken. So I highly recommend, if you like these cards and you want to keep them safe and all together, I recommend you buy a deck box from Ultra Pro or whatever kind of deck box, something to store your cards in. I also recommend, if you're or a binder like you used to do with your collectible cards back in the day, where you had the binder with all the sleeves of all your cards. You could just buy small, thin binders, and this is my binder for Arcane cards. This is my binder for Druid cards. And that's pretty great, especially if you are playing with a lot of new players, or you do Adventurers League or something like that. Hey, you're playing a Druid, here's the binder with all the cards. That kind of a thing. But these boxes, the quality is crap, as you saw. Now, I closed it back up, and you wouldn't even know. But as soon as I opened it up, that's going to open again. So there we have it, guys. That's my review of version 3 of the Gale Force 9 spell cards for D&D 5th edition. Couple of things to note, as I stated. It does not include any of the new monsters, or no, I'm sorry, new playable races contained within Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So we'll get those at some point. It does not include the Oath spells for Paladins contained within Xanathar's. It does not include the Domain spells for Clerics in Xanathar's. If you have another class that also gets access to spells or additional spells, all the new Rangers, for instance, all the new Rangers in Xanathar's Guide have access to new spells at every level. We can just take a look here in the Rangers card while I continue this outro, but they don't have any of those cards as well. So if you're playing one of those, I would recommend that you wait, because, or either you can print your own, and I'll put a link in the description below to where you can go ahead and download the templates that look just like these. And you can print and make your own. That way you can do, if you want to do homebrew spells or things of that nature, that's an option that you have. But if you're waiting to play a newer class, like a class contained within Xanathar's that has options other than spells, that doesn't really exist for you at the moment. And just on a quick glance through the Ranger cards, yeah, no, it's just the previous two Xanathar's cards, and it also, as I stated, does not include, just as a quick glance at the Rangers, does not include the cards that were in Elemental Evil that then got reprinted in Xanathar's. It's just the base Player's Handbook Ranger spells in here. So, a little weird to include only the base spells in all of the boxes, except the Arcane cards get the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide cards, but the Elemental Evil cards, you have to buy a whole new pack named for Xanathar. So, again, certain classes, if you're looking for your spells, they won't be contained in there. You may have to mix and match and buy multiple sets of cards to get what you want, to have all of your cards available to you for your given class. And if you're playing a newer class with other cool features, like they did it for all of the different monks, perhaps they'll do it for the Xanathar's monks as well. I don't know. So, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, a little recap and a revisit to the spell cards. There's going to be another Gale Force 9 card review, as they also sent me their new magic item cards. Now, mind you, I haven't looked at these at all. I can see on the back of the box, there's some cool imagery. We will take a look at these and do this in a separate video. But anyway, guys, thank you much for watching, and I'll see you then.